What's up, you guys? This is gonna be an awesome video because I'm sharing how I make about $10,000 a year buying and selling BMWs. So whether or not it's BMWs for you, I know the BMWs, so that's what I stick to. But if you're familiar with a different kind of car, the same rules apply. So this is going to be an in-depth video on how you can do it. It is simple, but this is going to be very detailed. The only other message I have for you guys is you might notice the shirt I'm wearing here or the shirt in the background, but I've been working on an awesome project that I am super stoked about. That's probably going to be launching at the end of this month. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button so you're notified of my videos, because when that's released, it's going to be exciting. But without dragging too far along with that, let's dive into this video. First of all, it is important to check with your state's laws. You don't want to be doing anything illegal, so find out how many cars you can legally buy and sell every year in your state. I live in Wisconsin and we are limited to selling 6 vehicles per year. That's more than some other states, so be sure to check with that so you're not, breaking any laws. The next thing you might want to know about is whether your state allows the public to buy from a deal or the public to buy from an auction, or if you need a dealer's license for that. If the public can buy from auction, that's another source where you might be able to find a good car that I'm not going to dive too deep into here because Wisconsin requires a dealer's license, which I do not have. So I find the majority of my cars on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, sometimes through word of mouth because people know I'm the local BMW guy. So friends and family will refer those cars to me sometimes. But the majority, I'll be honest, is all on Craigslist. So let's go over what I search on Craigslist to find that perfect flippable car. The first step is to search your local cities. So you'll be searching your local cities Craigslist with this way, and then you want to expand to nearby large cities. This is going to have more cars than a small town, and the prices are usually slightly cheaper only because, like I said, there's more cars. A small town, if you have a nice car that's optioned out perfectly, you have a little bit more of a premium because they're not as common as in bigger cities. So I keep it really simple when I'm here on Craigslist and just literally search BMW. I don't like getting too specific because that could weed out potential cars that, if you're searching BMW E90 335, you might miss out on something that has a vague ad or a 328 that's still a good deal. You don't want to miss out on anything. So I'm very vague. Unless there's a certain car you want to flip, be vague with your search because you could stumble on a lot of stuff. The only thing I would suggest possibly filtering by is price. If there's a certain budget you're looking in, put your maximum price and amp it up just a little bit because you can always haggle down to your budget price. So once you're searching on Craigslist, it takes a while to weed through all these ads because it is a little bit more vague, and if you're searching a bunch of cities, you could be looking for a little while. But this isn't, for nothing. You're making money here, so it's worth searching through this stuff thoroughly. I typically look for ads that don't either have a long description, a title, sometimes no pictures, and obviously price is important, so right away if it's too expensive you don't even want to bother with it. You're looking for a good deal. For example, I just bought and sold a 2007 335 for a huge profit. I'm going to go over that in just a second on what I paid for it, what I sold it for. I'll show you guys that Craigslist ad when I found it a couple weeks ago right here. So I saved that, as you guys can see here. Very short description, just one little paragraph, and 4 pictures. So this I found searching the Chicago Craigslist, a big city about 3 hours away from where I live. But I'm willing to travel for the right deal. So first of all, it's a 335, as you can see, for $3 grand. That is cheap. Just what I'm looking for, a cheap BMW. And the description basically just said he's sadly having to sell his BMW because he thinks it needs a head gasket. The car overheats. You can tell by the ad here he's not familiar with cars, and that's technically when you're buying and flipping a car, what you want to look out for. Someone that doesn't really know a lot and they're just looking to unload it. Whether they need cash quick or whether they're not familiar with the cars, whatever the story is. Another thing that gave it away for me here was the front wheel drive listing. These don't come in front wheel drive, so clearly he doesn't know a whole lot about the cars. Saying he can get the head gasket fixed for $1,500, but it's a beautiful car, blah blah blah, it needs a tow truck, call me anytime, da da da. Perfect. I know these cars very well. Well, the next step is inquiring with them. I just looked at a couple pictures. He only had 4. Looked fairly clean in the pictures. You obviously don't want anything super trashed unless it's cheap enough that you can afford to fix the way it looks, because nobody wants to buy a turd. So that was that. He listed his phone number there. So the next step after you found your car is contacting the seller. There are 3 things you want to ask them. What is the VIN number? This is useful for a lot of different reasons. The second step is, what problems does the car have? If it wasn't listed in their ad, you always want to find out what you're in for. Sometimes they'll tell you a little more over the phone than listed on the ad. So ask them, what problems does the car have? Say you don't mind fixing stuff, you know, you'd still be interested if it has some problems. You just want them to be upfront and honest with you, so you're not wasting your time looking at a car that has more issues than you thought, and you're not wasting their time. It's just easier to ask what's wrong with the car. And then after that, I always ask, how long have you owned the car? Why are you selling the car? Something about their ownership history, because that can give away if they haven't had the car for long and it's they're already trying to sell it. That could mean they found problems that they didn't know about and are looking to unload a project on somebody else. Sometimes that works if you're flipping something, but most times you want something that someone hasn't tried fixing already, or something that someone's not familiar with. You don't want someone else's scattered project. That's a lot of work a lot of times. So once you talk to them on the phone and they give you the VIN and you're still interested in the car, I have 2 free tools for you to use that VIN number and find out even more about the car. I don't typically buy Carfaxes unless I really need to. Sometimes I can get a friend to run one for free for me, but you can buy one if you want to spend the money on it, but I like free stuff because then more money in the profit margin. So I take that VIN and the first thing I do is go to mycarfax.com, or they have a free mobile app. Download mycarfax. You'll just have to make a quick account, and then after that you add the vehicle. So once you add it, it'll want the plate number or the VIN. You don't do it by the plate number. I always do it by VIN. That's why you get the VIN number from them. And then you paste that VIN number in there. For example, the 335 I found, I got the VIN. Let's add that. So search for car. Is this your car? Yes, that's my car. I already have it in here. So great. Let's open that up. The nice thing is right away it tells you any open recalls the car might have, not completed yet. You can use some of this for bargaining with the seller, saying, it still has these open recalls, why aren't you even taking care of it, blah blah blah. Either way, at least you know about them. But the biggest key to this is the service history. This keeps track of any recorded service history the car's had. So any dealership stuff, any performance shop stuff, any oil change shop stuff should all be recorded in here, all the way back to the beginning of the car's life. So I scroll down here, and you can just click on any of this stuff, and it records the date, the location, and the mileage that the maintenance was performed. For example, here in 2010, the brake fluid was changed and flushed, and the oil filter and oil were changed. Great. And all these records. So the key part of this is if you know the cars, you know certain things to look for, whether it be, for example, the 335, a water pump being replaced already. That saves you money. That's a selling point when you try and sell it. The water pump has already been replaced at this mileage. I have documentation of that. That's what this is useful for. Otherwise, turbos, injectors, whatever it is for that model car, if it's in here, which I've had before, I've had water pump already replaced. That's great news. So this will give you a good idea of the maintenance history of the car if it's been serviced somewhere. If they're doing the work themselves at home, sadly that's not recorded in here. so hopefully they can tell you that, but this is a free tool to pull up any maintenance history for any car by the VIN number. So once you've done that and you've got a decent grip on how well the car is maintained, you can use that same VIN number for a decoding service. I don't know if this is available for other cars besides BMW, but BMWs offer a decoder where it shows all the options, all the packages, all the details about the car, specifically if the seller might not know what they have, or if you just want to avoid talking about it or asking the questions. This will give you everything you need to know about the car if you have the VIN. So you take the VIN, like I had before. Oh, and it's not the full VIN, it's just the last 7 digits. So let's take the last 7 here. Into the VIN, confirm you're not a robot, and submit. So, like I said, only for BMWs, but it's going to list everything you need to know. And this is great because I typically avoid buying base model BMWs. People buying a BMW usually expect some level of luxury or, you know, something specific like that. It's all about selling the vehicle later. You don't want to buy a car that's going to be hard to sell later. I'm a firm believer in the flip is all in the buy. Getting the right car to flip at the right price is way easier than trying to mark it up at the end and make your profit at the end. It's all up front for me. I make all my money at the beginning stages of this whole process, depending on what car and how much I get it for. Again, I'm on bimmer.work. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but that is the web address, bimmer.work. So you enter the VIN there. It just pulled it up here. So at the top here is all the information about the car itself. 335, E90 sedan, 4-door, N54, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, interior and exterior colors, and the production date. So that's all important because sometimes without a picture or asking a million questions, you might not know exactly what you're in for. So this is a great way to just get it all up in the open. So now you know everything about the base of the car, and if you scroll down towards the bottom, there's an options section. So this will be all the vehicle options and packages, and it is a translated service from German to English, so some of this might not be easily deciphered, but you can always Google the option code to find out more information about it. Otherwise, I use this enough and I'm familiar with the cars that I can usually tell what it's trying to say. But let's just go through this here as an example. So this was the 335 sedan I just bought and sold. It has the ellipsoid style 162 wheels, sport leather steering wheel with gear, which means it has the paddle shifters there, automatic transmission, sport suspension, so it has sport package. I think you see that down here, sport seats. So it has sport package. Some of this other stuff doesn't matter as much as the other things. It has the wood and walnut trim, the integrated universal remote control, so that is on the rear view mirror, the buttons down there. That's usually an indication of premium package. The digital compass, that also gives away the premium package. Sunroof, interior rear view mirror with auto anti-dim. So this means the mirrors auto dim at night. You can just tell already based on those things that it has premium package. Electric memory seats with lumbar support. That's awesome. Prepared for an alarm system. Xenon headlights, adaptive headlights, lighting package, the hi-fi system professional. This is the radio, so the Logic 7 stereo. That's awesome. Other than that, I don't see anything else. Usually you'll see like iDrive in here if it has iDrive, heated seats if it has cold weather package, those sort of things. So now we have a good idea of what the car has. We can uncover the packages, the options, if the seller doesn't know about it. So this is a good way to find those things about a car, about that niche market. You want something for sure with sport package. Selling a BMW without sport package just never gets you as much interest or profit. So I always go for at least sport package. Xenon headlights are always a plus for me. The more loaded, the better. So the more options you find here, the better later on. So Now that we have a good idea of the packages, options, and maintenance history for the car, the next step is you deciding if you want to go look at the car. If you're still interested at this point, that's awesome. So set up something with the seller, go check it out in person, and look for all those things that they mentioned on the phone earlier about problematic areas. So you want to give the car a good inspection when you get there. Go over everything you possibly can. Because the more flaws you find, the more reasons you have later when you offer on the car to haggle with the seller. So, you know, everything's simple, everything that you're comfortable doing, checking oil, checking for blemishes inside and out, any sort of misfiring, smoking, leaking, any of that stuff, brake pad thickness, tire depth, I could go on. But you want to really give the car a good look over. And then if you decide that you think you can get it for a good enough price, after everything mentally in your head that needs to be fixed, you have a ballpark price what you might be into it once said and done, and a ballpark price of what you think you can sell it for. Now is the time to decide if you want to buy it and make an offer on it. So work with the seller on getting it for as cheap as possible. That's just going to improve your odds later on making a profit. So for example, with this 335 I fixed, he thought it needed a head gasket, but I know these cars, so we went down there. Turns out it was a bunch of other stuff, and all it needed was an alternator, some tires, some headlight bulbs, and it was ready to be sold. So I ended up getting this car, as you see here. I'll put some pictures on the screen of it from when I bought it and when I prepared it for sale, for $2,400. $2,400. That is really cheap. I actually have a spreadsheet here. I do this for all the cars I buy and sell just so I know exactly how much I'm into it, and I encourage you to do the same thing. So as you see here, car, $2,400. It was all the way in Chicago, so that was a 3-hour drive. Gas, I included that because obviously if I didn't go get the car, I went ahead to spend that money. I rented a trailer with my buddy and used his truck, paid him $110 for that. The tolls, since there are tolls in Illinois, I included that. All this is stuff I had to pay for if I would have got the car, so I think it's fair to include it in the total project expense. Then after I registered and bought the car, I have that fee included here, and here's where it came down fixing it. Used alternators, $68.25. I had 2 tires that needed to be replaced in the back. I got takeoffs from a dealership, so they were used tires, and I had my buddy install them for cheap. Awesome deal there. Try and save as much money as you can when fixing these cars, and I'll go over this in a second. You don't need to buy brand new OEM parts for top dollar. Buy something you're comfortable with that you would use on your own car, but try and save money when you can, because this really matters. So I went to a junkyard, got a used alternator instead of spending the $600 on a new OEM one. Used tires instead of buying brand new tires. The angel eye bulbs were cheap enough. Those were burnt out. I got those on Amazon for $20. A headlight bulb that I had laying around for a couple of these other BMWs I've bought, so that was free. And touch-up paint, $6. And this whole ordeal, as you guys saw if you watched the videos, I work closely with my friend Lee, who is a BMW mechanic. And since the car was questionable, he ended up replacing the alternator for me and installing the tires. So I gave him $300 for doing that. That's what he wanted. The total expense for the project, as you see here, is $3,200. And I kind of gave it away in this Excel spreadsheet what I sold the car for, but I got $8,500 for the car. So you do the math, and we ended up with $5,200 profit. That is a huge profit. Minimum amount of work. I went into it thinking it would need more, but it's always great when it ends up, being smaller stuff. So I think what helped me here is it was a desirable color combo, the silver and black. It wasn't a nasty tan interior, and it had sport package, it had paddle shifters, it had low miles for 2007. So I knew all the positives of the car if I were able to get it in tip-top shape, which I did, and make a profit on. So this was not my first go around with this. Obviously I'm making this video with some good information. I'm going to show you guys the last couple of years, I think 3 years, the buy and sell price. I have a spreadsheet for that. I basically just list year, make, model, just some information about the car so I can remember and keep track of this stuff. But most importantly, the price I bought it for, the price I sold it for, and obviously the difference there. In a money spent column, I added this recently. I used to just keep track of like between 100 and 1,000 or more, you know, blah blah blah. But I started really keeping receipts in every single penny I spent, recording that for these cars so I know what I can sell it for and still make a profit. As you can see, since 2015, so 3 years, I have made $26,000 just buying and selling cars that I've either driven for a little while or just purely bought right away and sold right away. Sometimes I like to fix them up, drive them for a bit, then sell them. But I encourage you all to keep very well documented records of what you've bought it for and what you have into it, because otherwise you don't know what you can sell it for. But like I said, the 335 I just sold was an awesome profit, and let's go over, now that I've bought the car on Craigslist, what I need to do to sell it for a profit, because this is very important as well. So congrats, you bought the car. The first step is registering it. I encourage you to do this sooner rather than later, because if there was a problem with the title or you don't have the paperwork you needed, whatever the reason is, it always is better to just get it in your name before, because you can't legally sell a car unless you title it in your name and you were an owner and then pass it along to the next buyer. So do that right away, account for that in the price of the car, because it is an expense. And then the next step is to fix the major problems. Whether the car has a bunch of problems or really no problems at all, I encourage you to eliminate all the dash lights, all air lights, check engine lights. That's a red flag to buyers. Try to fix or cover up or get rid of any body damage on the car. So replacing, you know, a lower lip or a door or mirror or anything that's damaged, you want to try and, you know, improve that, buff it out, or replace the part, or get it painted, use touch-up paint, whatever it is. Because first impressions when they are buying a car are key. People want a nice car. They want to get excited about something that's in good condition, something that they can get excited about owning. So you really want to make it look nice. So any major mechanical stuff, any major body damage, you don't want the car leaking major amounts of anything, smoking crazy, any weird clunks or noises, misfires. That stuff needs to be taken care of, bottom line. Smaller stuff, depending on how bad it is, you can get away with not replacing. You just need to be upfront with it when you're selling. This 335, I didn't know the passenger door lock didn't work until I'd owned the car and driven it a bit. So I determined personally that it wasn't worth me paying the money to get it fixed or fix it myself, and I would just pass it along to the buyer and say, hey, the passenger door lock actuator is broken, it costs this much, I can fix it if you want to, but you know, I didn't want to sink the money in, because that just eats into your profit. You have to weigh, is this going to be important to be fixed, or is it, you know, not terrible, I don't want to spend money on it, let's see if I can sell it anyways. So small stuff like that. And I always encourage you, as you're fixing the car, don't just fix the stuff you think's wrong and then list it right away. Fix the stuff and drive it for at least a week. That way you can feel out any kinks in the car or any weird stuff that you might not known about. Because the last thing you want to do is sell a car and you didn't really know it that well, and turns out the buyer ends up having issues with it right away, and then you look bad, your reputation's ruined, they're mad, you know, you don't want that. So make sure this is a car that you would at least give to a family member or be okay driving yourself. You want to be honest and not sell a complete turd. Nobody likes a turd. So after you have that stuff fixed up, really spend a lot of time cleaning the car. Like I mentioned before, go through it, paint correct it if you have to, use touch-up paint, buff out stuff, shampoo the interior, wipe it down, you know. You want this in showroom condition for when the buyer comes to see it and for when you take pictures. So I believe heavily in really making sure the car looks nice. Some people just fix it, take a couple cell phone pictures and list it for sale. In my opinion, there are two important things when it comes time to sell the car, and that is a good picture set and a good ad. Obviously I have a decent camera, but if you don't, that's okay. You can use your phone. Don't be the person that doesn't clean the car and just goes to a gas station, takes 2 or 3 pictures and considers it good. Really spend some time, spend a day cleaning it up and then go out, find a good location. I always take a bunch of pictures. The more the merrier. You don't want to make it hard for the buyer to, find out information on this car. Make it as easy as possible for them. So I take a front picture, front quarter picture, side profile picture, rear quarter picture, rear picture, all the way around the car, under the hood. So don't skimp there, wipe that down, get all the dirt and grime out of there, use some tire shine on the plastics if you want to. Interior pictures, so the dash, power the car up, turn it on, buckle your seatbelt. You don't want any air lights on the dash, and take a picture of the dash without any lights. With the RPMs up, they'll know it's idling. So car's on, no lights, great news there. Backseat picture if you want, trunk picture if you want, tire depth, anything. I usually aim for about 10 pictures total. Too much is obviously too much, but it's better to have more than not enough. So as you're fixing this stuff, sometimes it's just worth spending the hours polishing up the headlights, getting rid of that haze, polishing up, other stuff, upgrading things. You got to be careful when you're doing that because of not everyone's taste is the same, and you don't want to modify it to your liking because someone else might not like it. With BMWs, I stick to as stock as you can get it, the better, because people like an open platform for them to, paint their own picture with it, however they want to modify it. If you want to do small stuff like upgrading the angel eyes to LEDs instead of halogens, I do that. Interior lighting to LEDs, sometimes I do that. OEM spoiler or front lip to cover up any scuffing or damage. Keep it subtle and OEM style. Don't go crazy with this. There have been cars, as you can see in my spreadsheet here, I had a M Sport 328, I'll show some pictures of that. I dropped that one down on a nice set of wheels, did LED upgrades on it. Stay tasteful and not over the top with this. Sometimes depending on the car, there's a market for a well tastefully modified car, but you got to be careful with that. So after the car's in tip-top shape, polish the exhaust tips, polish the headlights, now it's time to sell it. So like I said, take those pictures and then write a good ad. So open up Word, start typing a good advertisement. You can use the boomerwork decoder I talked about earlier to list all the packages and options. You don't want a huge block of text. People are going to get lost in a massive paragraph. So break it up into easily digestible paragraphs or bullet points. Just be straightforward with the car. I always list the most important stuff: year, make, model, mileage, options, packages, and then underneath any sort of pros and cons the car might have. You don't want to hide anything or lie. That just builds distrust with the buyer. So lay out any issues that would be a red flag in the ad, because otherwise people are just going to waste your time coming to see a car that they thought might be better than it really is. So be honest, but emphasize the pros on the car. Emphasize the things you think are good. A good color combo. If it has M Sport, manual transmission, any sort of things that might stick out, you want to emphasize that and get them excited about it. So once you have a good ad written, I always fill out the stuff on Craigslist on the side, the VIN, be very detailed in the ad, but don't bore them to death either. The next step is listing it for sale. This is important because I just spam my stuff everywhere. I am on like 5, 6, 7 Facebook groups, so a local automotive classified group would be a great place to start. There's some Wisconsin BMW groups, local city for sale groups, Facebook Marketplace. Sell it in all those groups. List it, make a listing for it. The more eyes, the better. So then you can also post it on your personal page and make it public. Encourage friends to share it, offer a finder's fee, whatever it is. I post it everywhere on Facebook and then Craigslist. Put it in your city's Craigslist, put it in neighboring cities' Craigslist, put it in big city Craigslist, whatever, everywhere. It does not hurt to list it too many places. You can put it on cars.com, autotrader.com. I put it on national forums, local forums. If there's a local racing forum you're a part of, or a local BMW forum, there's that for me. I list it on there. I list it on E90 Post, a nationwide forum. So, list it everywhere you possibly can, because all it takes is one buyer to see it, one person to see it. And I usually don't have any problem selling a car when I do that. All those steps usually equal a fairly quick sale. So, like I said, the only other thing that comes down to it is the price. You got to be careful when you're listing it for sale. You don't want a price that's too high, because that's just going to scare off a potential buyer that might not want to spend top dollar for it. And if it's too much, sometimes people think, oh, list it high and then take offers on it. But if it's too high, people aren't even going to be interested in offering on it because they think it's out of their budget. So in my eyes, then those cars just sit online forever, and even if you're knocking down the price slowly, those people have seen the car and they're like, wow, that car's still for sale. I wonder what's wrong with it. It's been for sale forever. Someone must have checked it out, and there must be a reason it's not selling. So price it fairly. Obviously, it depends, on what you have into it and what your profit's going to be, and nobody knows that except for you. So price it accordingly. It's always a gamble. You could have gotten to this point, and you might end up losing a little money. I have never really lost money in a car because, like I said, I do the research up front. And even if I'm worried about breaking even on the car, that's not worth it to me. I got to get a good deal on it so I can make money later on. So look at the Craigslist in your area to gauge the value of the car when you're trying to sell it. Find similar cars and use that pricing to get the sale price on your car. Otherwise, you can use nada.com. A lot of credit unions and banks in my area use that as their loan tool, so they will find the value of a car using NADA and then give the loan for that amount. And that's important when you're selling a car, because half the time people need to get a loan when they're buying it. And if it's too high, the bank won't loan them enough money to buy it from you, or you're going to need to find a cash buyer. So don't list it crazy high. And if you really have the margin and want to get rid of it quick, you can list it low and have a fire sale and get rid of it. But I usually price it fairly and then have no problem taking an offer on it in person. So I'll quick show you guys my ad here that I made for the 335. These are my guidelines. You can see I had 14 pictures here. We can just scroll through them all. As you can see, the car's looking good. It was a very clean car once I really polished it up, got rid of all the blemishes. Pictures all the way around, a nice interior picture. Here's the steering wheel picture, the gauge picture I talked about, backseat, any sort of owner's manual or paperwork you have under the hood. And then here's the ad. I'm selling my very clean 2007 335 with this many miles, meticulously maintained because we looked up the maintenance records, nicely optioned. So then you list the details, the engine, transmission, packages, as you see here, following additional options. And this is all found through that boomerwork website. And then just talk about the car a little bit. This is ready to be taken across the country. I drove it for a long time. I drove it for a week. In my mind, you'll find any problems with a car in a week. If it has problems, they're going to show up. So, smooth and quiet ride. This thing was a nice car. I liked it. I almost wanted to keep it. But that's the problem. You don't want to get too attached to these cars. So, emphasizing it has the adaptive headlights. That's a nice plus. Accident free. I ran the Carfax. No accidents. No check engine lights. No rattling, smoking. Any recently replaced maintenance, because sometimes people will ask about that. And this was a special case. As you see here, it did have a buyback title. So that's why I listed it, a little bit cheap, and that's why I think I got it cheap initially, is because it had a manufacturer lemon law buyback title. So I didn't want to hide that. I put that in the ad because the last thing you want is someone interested in the car and then they see the title and then they don't buy it and you just wasted a bunch of time. So be upfront with stuff, and then at the bottom, a sale price. Sometimes I offer extra incentives. I had another set of wheels, winter wheels, that I could have offered with the car in case they wanted them. And then at the very bottom, I just list a bunch of tags. So BMW related tags, as you can see. That way it just helps it show up on Craigslist. So in my eyes, this is an example of a good ad. Everything's filled out on the right in case they're filtering for it, a location, and like I said, post it everywhere. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, seriously drop them below. I'm an open book on this stuff. I want to show you guys, how I'm able to afford some of the kit, the dock race kit I have on the 135. This is awesome mod money. If you're buying parts, it's a great way to do it. If you're comfortable with these cars, start with something cheap. If you're just getting your feet wet, something with, that you're kind of familiar with. Research a bunch online. And obviously stay within your legal limits like I talked about at the beginning of the video. And when it comes time to sell the car, just set up a time with a buyer. In my eyes, first come, first serve. Cash talks. I don't hold cars for people because tons of people just, kick tires on that, and the next thing you know, you held a car for someone who didn't buy it and missed out on however many potential buyers. I also don't typically meet buyers at their location. I won't drive my car to them to sell it because if they're interested, they should make the trip to come see you. You don't want to waste your own time and gas and money to show a car unless they're giving you a deposit or whatever. So that is pretty much all I have. I think you guys should watch the previous videos to see an in-depth look on exactly what I did to this car to, buy, fix, and sell it. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more BMW related content. I also have a single turbo 135i. That is some pretty exciting stuff. Speaking of that, I should be posting an exhaust video for that. I just got a custom exhaust fabbed up for it. It looks badass. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, peace.